Hello everyone, my name is Christina Moise. I'm an NLP Master Trainer and I have decided to share this little webinar with you and talk about practical applications of NLP, especially for relationships. Now, why relationships? It's simply because I believe that relationships are at the heart of our happiness and joy in life, and they really determine how successful we are in all areas of life. So for me, particularly, it was a huge area of interest because back then when I started NLP in 2017, I was going, and actually me and my husband, we were going through a major crisis in our relationship. And we were like, what do we do? We had been together for over 20 years, having 2 kids, and we had a lot of great times. And still we came at a point where things didn't seem to click anymore. So each one of us started looking, their own ways. And ways of reinventing, ways of recreating, ways of rebonding and reconnecting the relationship. So what I did was I was going to various, I tried a couple of therapists. I was doing a lot of research online on ways you can help, rekindle the flame in your relationship and so on. And one day I came across this little article in a newspaper. Remember the nice, smelling newspapers that we used to buy. And in that magazine, I found a very interesting article written by a psychologist who said that by working with his unconscious mind, he actually realized why he was having the challenges and the problems he was having in his relationships. And how by working with his unconscious mind and releasing a lot of the unresolved material at the unconscious mind level, he actually managed to get into a happy, loving relationship. And I said, I want that. Plus, he said a couple of other things in the article about the unconscious mind. Like, for example, he realized that when he was a child, when he was a small child, he was getting sick on purpose just to get his mother's attention. And I was like, what is this unconscious mind? I want to work with my unconscious mind and learn to do all that. So by, again, doing a little bit of research online about the unconscious mind, I came across that the best way to work with your unconscious mind was hypnosis. And then further research has led me into this, training that had NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnosis and coaching. Because back then, I also wanted to change my career and go from being a business consultant, working for corporates, to being a coach and opening my own business. So this is actually what got me into NLP. And to be honest with you, I did not actually want to learn NLP at first. But now, after learning NLP and after teaching it for so many years, I realized the power of NLP, especially when it comes to the words and the language that people use to describe their problems in relationships. And I have been working with a lot of people, and especially women, who have been through abusive relationships, be it emotional, physical, or mental abuse, or a relationship that simply did not work. And I was curious, how come relationships don't work? Why at first people come together, they're having a great time, they're enjoying each other, their presence, they communicate so easily, and then all of a sudden things seem like they're just, not there anymore. They come together and they look at each other as if they were 2 strangers. And NLP really inspired me in doing this work with women and assisting them to successfully navigate through their relationships and get into loving relationships where they're appreciated, where they feel loved, where they feel okay to be who they are. And one of the things that I realized is that people, when they go into a relationship, when they start having a relationship, each one of the, the persons has, these great expectations, and they have these wonderful projections, and they say to themselves, well, I'm going to have the best relationship ever. I'm not going to be like my mom or dad. It's going to be awesome. And they're putting in their best effort, right? Everybody does that. Everybody wants to be in a loving relationship where they feel appreciated and feel safe and protected. But then after a while, what happens is that all the unconscious luggage, all the unresolved material at the unconscious mind level starts, coming up. And that's why I believe perception is projection, as you all know, is very important. Because whenever you get triggered in a relationship, whenever something is not exactly as you wanted, it's just a gentle reminder and an invitation for you to go check what are your beliefs, what are your values about relationships. Because people don't realize that, but even though they want to have a relationship which is the complete opposite or different from what they've seen in their parents or at home or with their grandparents or in society and friends in general, what people end up doing and expressing in a relationship, it's actually what's most deeply unconscious. It's things that they're not even aware of. So I started to look at relationships as an invitation to actually go and check what are those, beliefs, unconscious beliefs that actually lurk from behind and oftentimes sabotage a relationship. And after working with many women who have successfully turned their relationships around, like in ways I could not believe myself, and they did not have to change the person they were with. All they had to change was themselves. And it's so funny, once a client told me, well, I was married with this guy once, and I divorced him. He was my first husband. Because he was not communicating with me, he was not understanding me, not appreciating me, so on and so forth. And then I got married the second time. I thought this time I would be lucky, and this person, new person, would understand and speak with me and appreciate me. And guess what? 90% he was exactly the same as my first husband. And she was like, what is this? Is it some kind of a plot, something, against me? Why am I so unlucky in relationships? And what I found to be really, really, really useful is to go and have a look at your perceptions and your beliefs about your role, be it a man or a woman or the gender that you identify with in your relationship, and what are your expectations from the other person, be it conscious and especially those which are unconscious, because they will often play out in your relationships. And once you get beneath all that, once you get that clarity, it will help you solve a lot of relationship issues that you have. Next thing, which I really love doing, and that's actually from the very beginning, I speak with someone who wants to work on their relationships, is actually to ask them and get clarity. What is it that you want in a relationship? What kind of relationship do you want specifically? Because as you may remember, day one from the NLP Prague, we speak about the focus. What do you hold in your focus, in your mind? Are you focusing on what you want, or are you focusing on things that you do not want? What I have realized for myself and other people that I was working with was that most of the time when they were having issues and challenges in their relationships, the focus was on things that they did not want. I don't want to argue anymore. I don't want to have this miscommunication in my relationship. I don't want this unhappy, intimate relationships with my partner. I don't want this. I don't want that. And the list would go on and on and on and on and on. Because people are experts in knowing what they do not want. And that's fine. But remember, your unconscious mind does not process negations. Just like the example, if I were to ask you, just don't think of a blue tree, what pops in your mind? It's the blue tree, right? How come? Because I told you, don't think of a blue tree. And yet this is how our little beautiful unconscious minds actually work. Whatever you hold in your focus, it will actualize it for you. It will make it happen for you. So even after you get that long list of things that you do not want in your relationship or from your partner, what I suggest is that you start writing down what is it that you really, really, really want. Okay? And it's not a matter of you thinking whether that's possible, because if you think whatever you want, it's not possible, then all those are, just a little reminder, NLP practitioners, those are only limiting beliefs and doubts you have about yourself, about your partner, and about your relationship. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just for you to make a note of all of that and use everything you've learned, all the tools you've learned in NLP, and especially in timeline therapy, to get rid of all those limiting beliefs and doubts. Because guess what? You can have anything that you want, provided your conscious and your unconscious mind are aligned and working together towards the same goal. So coming back to the aspect of relationships and how do you practically apply this? So make a list about everything that you want in a relationship and be clear about that. And remember, focus is not about just the visuals, the image that you hold in your mind. It's also the auditory, it's also how you feel about that. And also the audio digital. Remember, focus, it's this little thing, it's the pictures that you hold in your mind, but making sure that all the modalities, the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic, the AD, are all about what you want. And if there are little doubts, don't worry about them. You can let them go by using everything you've learned during the trainings. And this is one of the best ways to actually apply NLP for relationships. And I've had so many students and people who have taken either coaching or trainings with me. And they said, well, I've done this training. I cleared up a lot of my, unresolved material about my relationships, how I see men, how I see women, or this gender or this other gender in relationship and how they should connect. But they haven't done the same. They haven't done any work on themselves. And this is a great question. And I've been through this experience myself where I've taken NLP prac, trainer's training, everything, even accelerated personal evolution program. And yet they haven't done anything. How can this relationship still work if they haven't done any work on themselves? Well, it's a great question to ask yourself, and always go back to perception is projection. And what I always recommend the people that I work with is that even if it's your partner, or it works for your kids and people in your life, look at them just as if you were looking at your clients. Remember what Ted and Adriana taught us about when you have a client in front of you? Let your beliefs about them be limitless, okay? And it's basically the same when it comes to your partners, to your husband, to your wife, to your children. Always look at them as being limitless. Always hold a positive projection in mind about them. Even if sometimes they get into the habit of complaining, even if sometimes they're not doing what you expect them to do. Remember, perception is projection. And also, I find this really interesting and funny. But remember, we're all suggestible. So even if they go like at home, my kids and my husband, they go like, oh, don't give us your NLP. Whenever they bring up a problem, guess what's the first question I ask them? How is this a problem? And they go like, oh, mom, don't NLP us. And of course, I just a little bit sprinkle some NLP. And what I realized, if I just sprinkle some NLP, and especially if I say stories, little metaphors, that actually addresses whatever they're going through, they're going like, that's interesting. And that sticks with them. And after a while, they say, oh, this reminds me, you know what mom says? And they sort of got the solution, or they got things going, moving in their lives. So I wouldn't worry that much. If your partner, and I was lucky, my husband actually was part of my first NLP prog that I delivered, and he took NLP, and I'm so excited to see him speak about NLP in his job when he's managing his team members, coaching them. He's applying a lot of the NLP tools, doing the anxiety model with them, have them picture the successful completion of one meeting or another, performance reviews, goals, how do they meet goals or overcome obstacles towards their goals. And I'm happy to see that. And at the same time, there are women who come across partners who have not done NLP. But that's fine. Remember, perception is projection. What you hold in your mind about that person, their curiosity, their willingness to learn, their ability to be there in a relationship with you, to foster that loving relationship, and so on. It's so important. It's a great starting point. And by the way, guys, have you noticed how NLP is actually contagious? Because once you learn it, it's like you spread it around you, and people see the changes in you, and they want to learn what you learned and go through the same experience as you have. I don't know about you, but after doing my NLP prog, I was so enthusiastic about timeline therapy, letting go of all the negative emotions, all the limiting beliefs, and using NLP and hypnosis. I was so enthusiastic about all that when I got home, I actually did NLP with my mom, who had like a 20 years chronic pain, with my brother who had a drug addiction, with my dad, with my sister, with my kids, with friends, colleagues. I just spread the word around. And this is how I realized that by actually changing yourself, you change the world around you. And by the way, if you're still wondering, yeah, but I've changed, but I haven't seen the change yet. Remember the little Ho'oponopono process from the wonderful teachings of Huna. And you got that recording, and you got the process part of your Master Prog recordings. It's a wonderful process to assist you in changing your projections fast. And also the way people in your life see you after you've gone through massive change. So that was just a little side note. Coming back to how do you apply NLP in relationships. And also what I found really useful and interesting is to work with people and elicit their relationship values, what's important for them in their relationship. Do a values alignment for relationship. Make the two partners aware of what's important for each other in a relationship, and also make them aware of the meta programs. And the meta programs, I always find them so interesting and so valuable. And just taking the example of me and my husband, I'm an introvert sometimes. Remember, it's being an introvert or extrovert, it's not that you're all the time like that, But most of the time, I'd like to recharge my batteries by going sit in a corner, reading something, processing stuff. And he's an extrovert. So oftentimes you would have in a relationship people who are at the extreme opposites. And explaining this to people in relationships, it's very useful because all of a sudden they understand each other differently. They know why. They now know why their partner, when they're having a problem, just speaks on and on and on and on and on about that problem, and they never stop. And even if you interrupt them, even if you give them the best solution ever, they would not consider it. And you're just sitting there thinking, oh my God, I just wasted a lot of time listening to this person, giving, them solution, and they're just ignoring me. And I just wasted a lot of my time and energy for nothing. But actually, when you understand that there are people who have this external processing filter, who whenever they have a problem, they're just processing it and working through the problem by talking about it. And remember, they do not expect anything of you. They do not expect any solution or any advice or any comment from you. They just need someone in front of whom they can actually talk safely, someone they can trust that they can share their, problems. And that's a great thing, because when you learn this, and when people learn this about, their partners, that actually, it's not that they're complaining all the time, but actually when they're talking about their problems, they're solving their problems at the same time in their head. Because my husband, go figure, he's an external processor, and he would talk on and on and on. And I was just like giving him solutions, and it never worked. But now I know, I know that actually he's working through his own stuff as he's speaking about it. Also, knowing other, meta programs and filters, such as the communication style. Are they an inferential speaker? Whenever they want to say something to me, do they communicate directly? That thing like, hey, I'm thirsty, can you please pass me a cup of water? Or are they an inferential speaker and just, trying to get you to get them a glass of water by saying, hey, I'm thirsty? But if you're just a direct listener who just needs a clear, precise instruction and direction on what to do, you're going to be sitting there, why are they sharing this information with me? What am I supposed to be doing? You're thirsty? So what am I supposed to be doing here? So there are a lot of the NLP tools that you can use for your relationships. And one of the things that I share with students, and it's applicable for all areas of life, is whatever you learned in your practitioner trainings, your master prac trainings, your trainer training, these tools, it's not once in a lifetime kind of an experience where, hey, I've done this to my therapy on my limiting beliefs and values and unresolved material, and I'm supposed to be done with all of it and be happily married or in a relationship and no problem coming up whatsoever. I personally believe that's an illusion. From my experience and so many students and clients' experience, what I see is that actually we are always growing. We are always evolving. We are always going to new places in our consciousness. And if you remember Claire Graves and the evolution of values through consciousness levels, when he actually set out to do his research on values, his main intent was to actually identify what's that maturity level that all humans must reach so that they're a fulfilled individual and with a fulfilled potential and personality. And one of the main conclusions after doing his research was that there is no such thing as one maturity level that all people should reach. Instead, there is always a forever growing and evolving consciousness. We are forever expanding. We are all the time learning new things. We are all the time wanting to set new goals in our relationships, in our family, in our business, in our health or spirituality. So we want to grow all the time. And by the way, whenever you grow, whenever you want to go to a new level, guess what? There's also some unresolved material that's going to come up. So going back to how do you use this and what you do in relationships, what I recommend to my clients and the way I work with them, and also how I do it with my husband in our relationship, is that we set relationship goals. Hey, what do we want, to achieve as a relationship, as a couple? And it's him and I, and it's also for the family with the children. How do we want to grow ourselves? Because we are growing. And I think what's important in a relationship is to respect where each and every person is in their journey, in their growth. Because oftentimes there would be at different values levels. They would have gone through different life experiences. And at the same time, look at this as an extremely great opportunity for you to grow and learn from your partner. I learned so much from my husband. I learned things that, and I started taking action on things that I never thought I would do or I was capable of doing. So whenever working and applying NLP, timeline therapy, or hypnosis in relationship and working with yourselves or your clients, remember that relationship, it's not a static entity. It's not a thing that it's completed and done, and once it's done, you never go back and revisit that. It's a living organism. It's alive, and it's made up of two people who love each other and who love themselves. And that organism is living with what you're nourishing it. So nourish it with good, great projections, amazing projections about each other, about what you can achieve, where you can grow the relationship. And oftentimes people go, hey, but we've grown so much. We've done so many things together. What else is there? And I often speak with my husband and we're wondering, what else is there? There's so much we have achieved. And it's a great thing, but you're kind of like, what else is out there that we don't know yet? And every time we surprise ourselves to find actually there are always new things, new levels to grow at on all levels. And this takes me back to actually 2017 when I took my NLP trainer's training, and I was like, hey, I want to become a coach and I'm going to be out of here in no time and having clients and so on and so forth. I had no idea what being a master trainer meant. I had no idea what going through the master trainer program was and how each and every single year of the master trainer program was gonna tremendously help me grow my business, my mindset, my consciousness, my everything, my whole life. I did not know what I did not know. So once I realized that every time whatever you are in your life, whatever step you are at in your relationship, in your business, this is where you are, but it's not everything. Wherever you are, there's always something that you don't know that you don't know. So what I would encourage you all is to actually start thinking about that. What is it that you don't know that you don't know? And if you're also passionate about applying NLP in your relationships, and by the way, when I say relationships, it's also relationship with my kids. Because I grew up in the communist Romania, and when I had my children, my first impulse was to say, I'm not going to be like my mom or my dad. I'm not going to be like them. And this is what my unconscious mind was like, oh yeah. And before you know it, and I realized that one day, it was late in the evening, I was trying to put the kids to bed, and it was like whatever was coming out my mouth, it was my mother talking through me, my mother's words, my mother's behavior. And I was like, am I possessed? How is this possible? I promised to myself that I'm not going to be like my mom. But there you go. The unconscious mind has a funny sense of humor. And not that, there's anything wrong with my mom, but the communist, regime, like, you'd better do this or else. And it's all the should and have to. But kids these days, they challenge you a lot. And I started to take these challenges from my kids in a way as I see them as invitations to go back to myself, check on my projections. And by working on myself, taking responsibility for my projections, and this is something that I do day in and day out. There's no day that goes by without checking, or doing some work on myself, because I believe that just as we take care of our bodies, we take a shower every day, we brush our teeth every day, we comb our hair. So we take care of our bodies every day. Why not taking care of the inside? Why not, letting go of the unresolved stuff on a daily basis as well? And this is what I call the basic hygiene. And just to conclude on this webinar, because it's been a long journey and I'm sure there's still a lot yet to come. In the relationship, the relationship with my husband and with my kids, and also for you, I invite you to start looking at what is it that you want to create in your relationship, with everything that you know, with all the support that you have from the group, from the coaches, from Pat James. Where do you want to grow your relationship? What is it that you want to create anew in your relationship? Because you can do that. And one of the things that I'd love to leave you with, and one of the biggest aha moments for me, was that to be able to be in a loving relationship, it takes a lot of self-love and self-appreciation and knowing yourself and accepting yourself. And it's a long journey. It's a lifetime journey. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that you only do once in your life. It's something that you constantly do. You constantly go back to yourself, remind yourself of who you are, why you're here, what's your journey, who is with you on this journey, and how are you honoring them and yourself as you're growing and enjoying this journey. I thought this was useful for you. I'd love to hear from you, your experience in how do you apply and what tools do you specifically leverage from NLP in working on your relationships. And I will be happy to read your comments, to respond to them. And whatever help or support you need, I'm here. I'm just a click or a comment away, and I'm happy to jump in and offer my support. Thank you so much for listening in, and speaking to you soon. Bye-bye.